With a Penn State degree, the sky is the limit. A Penn State degree shows employers that you have a hard work ethic and are ready to meet the demands of the modern workforce. One man that we know very well landed not one, but 4 separate occupations in his field of engineering in the years following graduation. Proud Penn State alumni, Galen Troxel, graduated in 1988 with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering after spending his first 2 years at the Schuylkill Haven campus. Now, Galen can be considered an entrepreneur after starting his own winery in Andrews, Pennsylvania before the turn of the century. Although no longer employed in his field of engineering, Galen continues to use his knowledge in mechanical engineering to service the equipment used in the winemaking process. Like I said before, Galen Troxel worked for numerous companies before becoming an entrepreneur. The first of those occupations was with Lincoln Electric in Cleveland, Ohio. There, for the first 6 weeks, he learned how to weld. Then he moved on to Wendt Dunnington in Exton, Pennsylvania. There he managed the engineering department, whose job was to mass-produce high-precision machinery parts. Then his third job was with Precision Roll Grinders in Allentown, Pennsylvania. There he was also the engineering manager, and that company serviced rollers for paper manufacturing companies. His last job, before becoming a winemaker, was with Agility Communications, also out of Allentown, Pennsylvania. There he was a product manager as well. Mr. Troxel began planting in 1995 while still employed with Wendt Dunnington. Then in 1998, the Galen Glen Winery opened for business, and later full-time in 2002. Let's take a look at the process behind everything.
It is approximately 17 acres, consists of 11 different varieties. There's approximately 10,000 vines planted, and the annual production is about 60 to 70 tons of fruit. All right, so this is European varietal Gewürztraminer. Just talking about the work that we do during the growing season. The next step is going to be pruning. This particular variety is cane prune, and what that means is basically we look for 2 canes that we can use to lay down on the load wire. So obviously with the pruners you're going to make cuts. Let's just say, for example, we will cut here. This cane will be laid down to reestablish this side. One of these 2 canes will be selected to establish the other side. And then each of these buds is a node. Well, at each of these nodes is a bud, which becomes the shoots that you see next year. So as you can see, these nodes are very close, so the shoot spacing tends to be very close on this variety. Based on that, we will come through and selectively retain shoots, trying to keep about a 3-inch spacing. And on each shoot in the growing season, then you will get 2 to 3 clusters. Typically, we will leave 1 to 2 clusters of fruit on this variety. In addition to that, as things continue to grow, we'll get a little bit bigger. Later in the year, we come in and we pull leaves out. The fruit zone is right here. The fruit will be hanging here, so we pull leaves out to expose fruit to air and sunlight. And this variety also, you can see it's not overly vigorous, but there is adequate vigor. So these shoots will grow out of the top of the catch wires, and we will need to cut some of this foliage off just to keep everything in place and not have it drooping back over, which will create a disease pressure situation. So 1 or 2 times a year we come across and do a top hedging, and we may do a minimal side hedging. These are laterals. Sometimes these get excessively large and create shading as well that need to come off. Another operation that just happened in fall is these European varietals are grafted grapevines, and what that means is there's a rootstock, and then attached to the rootstock at a graft union is the varietal that you're working to cultivate. So we cover the graft union with soil to give it an insulating blanket for winter, so it protects it from winter cold injury. And then in spring, typically in the April time frame, this hill is brought back down and leveled out for the ensuing growing season. Grapes are hand harvested in lugs. The lug holds about 30 to 35 pounds of fruit. As you can see, we have about 300 of them. So about 6 ton, 6, 8 ton. fruit starts out in this device, it's called a destemmer crusher. So the fruit gets poured into a hopper, the auger pulls it forward. In this section of the machine, there's rubber tip beaters that separate the berries from the stems. The berries will go through holes in a cage. They then drop down. In the lower part of the machine are two rollers that mesh together, and they crack the fruit and prepare it for pressing. On the bottom of the fitting, you can hook a hose to a pump, and then pump the cracked fruit into the horizontal bladder press. So the central bladder is pressurized with air. When the press is full, it holds about just under 2 tons of fruit. Doors are put in place, and the bladder is pressurized to extract the juice from the fruit. All the pressing is done up to about 25 psi. So you inflate the bladder until juice starts to flow. And then when juice stops flowing, you deflate the bladder, rotate it, break it up, and press it again. You do that 10 to 15 times over the course of about an hour to complete a press cycle. Full press will give you about 225 gallons of juice. And we'll do probably 3 to 5 presses a day during harvest. The juice, you get about 225 gallons of juice out of a press. The juice is pumped inside to one of our vertical stainless steel tanks. We add enzymes to the juice, the clarified juice, and then if you look at this tank, it's a classic wine tank, and then you have a racking valve, a clean out valve, and a man-way. Man-way means a man does go in and clean the tank. So the juice is clarified with enzymes. The solids will go to the bottom. The clear juice is pulled out, and then for white wine, clear juice is fermented until the majority of the sugar is fermented out, and then it's topped off and rests until January or December, at which point you start to filter and prepare for bottling. Continuing with the white wine process, white wines are blended, sweetened, whatever we're trying to accomplish relative to that wine style in the market. That occurs in the tank room. The day of bottling, wines are pumped from the tank through a sterile filter and into the bottling line. The way that works is basically there's a relay, there's a float in the filling bowl, goes to a relay goes to the pump. So when the float calls for wine, pump turns on, wine comes in through the sterile filter into the bottom of the filler, up through the center of the filling bowl, and it is available to fill bottles. On the filling bowl is also a sight gauge that allows you to double check what's going on as you're running the process. The way it works is pretty simple. Empty bottles start on the conveyor. They move to a position under one of the 8 rotary filling spouts. As the bottle traverses around the turret, it is slightly overfilled. It's then indexed to this position, which is a gas leveler sparger. So for white wine, carbon dioxide is injected into the top of the bottle. The excess wine goes back to the filling bowl, and then the carbon dioxide is left in the headspace just prior to bottling. Indexed to the corking position. This is a vacuum port, so the tube is hooked up to this port, vacuum is pulled on the bottle, and a cork is inserted into the bottle. Then continues along the conveyor. At this position, the bottle is labeled, the capsule is stretched, and then it goes to its final position for putting in cases. From our 11 different varieties from vineyard, we blend and make a combination of 20 different wines ranging from dry to sweet, red, white, ports, dessert wines in terms of either port, ice wine. In addition to that, I think our niche is in aromatic white wines. This past year we won a double gold with our Riesling in the Riverside International Wine Competition, and Sarah won the best white wine made by a woman winemaker in a California wine competition. So definitely a tribute to our aromatic white wines.
It is easy to see how a Penn State degree helped Galen Troxel start his own business and keep it running for so many years. Although he is no longer employed by an engineering corporation, he uses the skills he learned there to keep everything here running in perfect condition so that the winery can continue to operate for years to come.